No, but what was the need of that? We were not on any list. Nobody said Nigeria was on any list. What the two cases I mentioned were cases that were being spoken of. They were not the only cases that existed. And besides, if one thing happens to one Nigerian, shouldn't we all look to it and say, okay, look, what exactly happened here? A Nigerian has been affected. And besides, she also did make that point clear that, yes, it wasn't her office meant to issue those advisory.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, but who is she supposed to advise? The Nigerian people, or advise the policy pool that designs our foreign policy, starting from the presidency? Now, if obviously the foreign minister didn't know she was going to make that public statement, and if he didn't know, that means they hadn't been discussing. And if they hadn't been discussing, that means there's a communication problem. And if there's a communication problem, you're not going to deliver on your agenda. Especially all of them are working within the same space. And that's why there's a controversy.
Can I just say, comment at this point, the minister did stress categorically that it is only the office of the president and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that are credible sources of information about Nigeria's foreign policy. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, you have the statement by the senior special advisor who has cautioned Nigerians and has actually said that we have to wait until there's a more clearer view to what the U.S. foreign policy is to people traveling into the United States. This seems to suggest that a rift has been created between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and her office. Who do we go with?
No. Look, it's obvious. There's a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the minister was right. But Mrs. Dabiri is part of that team. Is supposed to be a part of that team. And the minister should know it. And Mrs. Dabiri, there are some people travel abroad for several reasons: for health, for business, for pleasure, for tourism. Some people spend 6 months to plan for a holiday. And if a travel advice comes or something comes in the middle when you've put your plans in place, and then you want to weigh what source is it? Do I affect my plans? Some of these, it's not a question of who we weigh. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's an issue, there's a systemic issue, and I'm not going to individualize and say who's done what. But there are slips and there are cracks.
You know,
there are cracks.
Part of what you just said now is the question that lots of people are asking. They take months to plan their visit and their schedule, and then they get there, they don't know what to expect. And so they want to find out, they want information in terms of, look, if this happens to these gentlemen, what do we do? But if the minister has said no such thing happened, some of those people already feel that they've been prejudiced already, and so I can't bring my case to them, because if they say no such thing happened, if this is their mindset, how would they listen to me?
Chamberlain, I'm not sure whether you heard the minister say no such thing happened. I didn't hear the minister say so.
You want us to play it back for you to hear that?
The minister said that there is no, he gave the broad and the strategic framework of what was the position. Now, that is the official position. And I said, even before this controversy, it happens every day that people with legitimate visas are, for some reason that may be unknown to you or I, are returned. This is not the first time it's happened. Now, what we should do is that our foreign policy and our foreign ministry should start conducting research, should look at the documents and investigate. So there's nothing bad about investigating. But we shouldn't make a public display of what should ordinarily be something that is evidence-driven and intelligence-driven. You know? So who's been gathering the information? Now, nobody... Look, Two people we don't even know the names of anybody who was you know. If you watch program, if you know how the border, managing the borders in some of these countries, the US, Britain, right, they look for several things. It's not just, I mean, and once in a while, it's serendipity, you know, and it's not every time that it's deliberate or driven by some political or hidden agenda. It could just be the immigration officer. It's happened before to somebody I know, a girl who wanted to go back to school. They just said no, you know.
But Mr. Byron,
I agree. We should pursue it and find that, and we'll get from whoever country that we are flying from. Give us your policy on who you reject and who you do not reject, and please respect our citizens. But we must go back home before we really. You see, because foreign policy is very, very much tied to a national interest and national security.
It's not actually
and relations
easy.
And imagery.
It's not actually easy for those who were turned back to actually come on TV and speak. Some of them are traumatized, and so they couldn't come on national TV and speak about it. But you have said to investigate, but now nobody's talking about investigating any such thing, at least not from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But we'll go to break now. We'll be back and get your concluding comments when we return. Join us again. Welcome back to Sunrise. Let me see if we can get perhaps just a little bit of what the Minister of Foreign Affairs did say about whether or not any of such happened. Can we get that, guys, so we can just listen to it for a minute?
And to offer the hand of cooperation, see how he was doing, and to congratulate him on the excellent work he's been doing. And our cooperation with them is exemplary. Nigeria is on no list. Nigerians are on no list banned by the U.S. government, and it really is business as usual, and very good business it is with the U.S. government. So anything else you hear in respect of the U.S. is incorrect, and anybody who has the documents, required documents to go to the U.S. or to go to any other country, should please proceed to do so. We have absolutely no report whatsoever from our embassies in the U.S. or any of our consulates that any Nigerian has been turned back at the airport. If such a thing were the case, we would take it up. The government is obliged to take it up, you know, as to why a Nigerian with a valid entry visa has been turned back. I'm in touch with the U.S. Embassy all the time. We contacted the U.S. ambassador. He said no such thing.
All right, no such thing happened, he says. But in the report, in the Punch, there was a victim of the U.S. travel ban. Francis Adekola. Punch says he had narrated to them how he was detained for over 10 hours at the Atlanta airport on February 15, and then placed on the next available flight and returned to Abuja via Johannesburg. They go on to say a software engineer, Celestine Omin, has also tweeted his experience with the U.S. Border Protection Guard, who delayed him and subjected him to mental humiliation when he visited America on the invitation of a tech firm, Int'l. Well, do you think now, Mr. Byron, that these cases, which is widely reported, perhaps the ministry should, if they see this now, pick this up and investigate?
Okay. Very good. Now, what the minister said clearly was that there were no reported cases. And he stated certain sources, which obviously means that when you have certain incidents, there should be some kind of incidents reporting. And it should get probably to the Nigerian embassies there, or the American embassies in Nigeria here, where they will record and they document it. Now, he has said that he spoke to the U.S. embassy, or the U.S. ambassador, and the ambassador said that there was nothing. And, you know, of course, there were no reports coming in from Nigerian embassies in the U.S. So now, the fact that an incident happened is one thing. The fact that it was reported, right, is a totally different thing. So I wouldn't want to, whose fault that is, either non-reporting or not reporting through the appropriate channels. That's a different case. Now, it's a good thing you mentioned the date, February the 18th. I want to believe that that was the height of the period when the first executive order by Donald Trump came. And you have over-enthusiastic, what you call zealous security officers all over the world. And Nigeria has a very ample example of overzealous security officers, whether it's customs, immigration, police, SSS, every single one of them. You have
all right, we're really out of time. We need to wrap this up. Apologies, we need to go. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Shina Fagbenro-Byron. Well, that's the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I'm Gimba Umar.